2, 1.
Welcome back to Real Talk at the Round Table with Coach William Forkham, Coach David Smith, and Coach Larry Duffany. We're happy to be back with you for another powerful episode. In this episode, we'll be talking about childhood templates versus long-term goals.
Very good. Looking forward. Thank you guys for having me. I'm quite honored to be here with you, and I look forward to hearing from some of the folks that are out there listening as well. It's a wonderful evening here in sunny and quite hot Connecticut today.
Well, I think that's pretty much everywhere, because I mean, like, today is like extremely brutal. Like, you step outside and you're gonna die. But you know, today's the day you live in air condition, and I'm up in the north, and I still say that. But you know, tomorrow brings rain and it's going to cool down. So
for y'all, it is, not for me. They're predicting records tomorrow. Record heat tomorrow. Yeah.
Yeah, you know. Though. Yeah, it's okay. You know, usually up here we're usually 20 degrees colder than it is in Tennessee, and Tennessee is 20 degrees colder than Arizona. Lately, Tennessee and Michigan has been about the same.
Wow. That is something.
And you know, just to add insult to injury, my AC in my car just went out, and I did some troubleshooting on it today with a friend, and it looks like I'm going to be without AC for a couple of days. So, you know, worse things have happened, right? Worse things have happened, but
just because your AC is out, don't mean you can speed.
Oh no, that's just called 255 AC, right?
Wait, explain that. I need some clarity.
2 windows open, 55 miles an hour.
Oh, okay, 255 AC.
Yeah.
And you know, one thing I learned a trick: don't open your front 2 windows. Open both the windows on one side, so that way it circulates the air in and out.
Interesting. What about all 4?
Give it a shot. See which way is better.
Okay. I had 2. I had the drivers and the passengers down in the front. I didn't do the back. I've got stuff in the back and it'll fly around and stuff. But yeah, you know, you probably can relate to that. So yeah, and then I will say this morning I got up for my regimented morning run, and it was beautiful. About 70. It was wonderful. The problem is it got hotter.
Real fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, by 11 o'clock it was brutal.
Mm-hmm. Sounds about right.
So, my question is, long-term goals.
Mm-hmm.
How are we comparing our childhood to our goals?
I think what we do is we take a look at our templates, and you know, one of the things that I would say is this, that I'm not so sure that most kids don't have goals. They might have dreams, right? They might have some aspirations. I don't think we get to the point of goal setting until we've actually gotten to the point where we can truly conceptualize, right? Or have a really good sense of who we are. Childhood templates are those things that are imprinted on us by virtue of our experience. And so, that's when I was a kid, I dreamed I wanted to be a teacher, but why did I do that? Well, because my godfather was a teacher, my godmother was a teacher, my godfather's wife was a teacher, another aunt was. I mean, teaching was all around me. So it was something that I just kind of knew. So it was an imprint. It wasn't something that I had thought about being in terms of a rational plan for it. It was just kind of, oh my gosh, look at all these people and I admire them. And so that's what I want to be because that's what I know. Guess what? I became a teacher anyway, but only after I grew up and figured out what it was that who it was that I wanted to be. And I think, when we talk about goals, there's a couple different ways we could talk about them. We could talk about long-term goals from the perspective of what would we like to accomplish, but we can also talk about long-term goals in terms of who do we want to be and who do we want to become. In a lot of ways, I'm sure you're familiar with Stephen Covey and his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And when he writes about begin with the ending in mind, and he asks you to think about what you would want people to say at your funeral, right? It has a lot more to do with who you were than what you did.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny you say that, because even as coaches, we do that. We start out with a vision. Well, where do you see yourself in 5-10 years? Yeah. Then we go from that and we say, okay, a year from now, let's create a monster goal that's going to take us to that position. So we start far out and work our way to current. Vision, yep. Monster goal, and SMART goals. So we do the same thing as we work with people now.
Yes, exactly so. And I think I really think that a lot of coaching training that's out there has elements of Covey in it. When I went through FCMT, there was a lot of Story Brand with Donald Miller in there, and a lot of his BSMU. Is that right? Yeah, Business Made Simple, BMSU. His stuff also revolves around that reverse engineering. He actually included the whole right, instead of your funeral, it was write your obituary. Mm-hmm. Same thing. But yeah, I mean, you have to reverse engineer the result.
Yep.
Because nothing happens by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if we have the vision, we have the direction, we know which angle to go. But if we're shooting without that, well, I want to do this today, and that those goals may get us in a wide line, waving to and fro like every wind and doctrine. But
yep.
If we have a direction, then we can go a straight line. So that's why we always start with the end and work our way to where we're at.
Absolutely the case. 100%.
Yeah. And I think it's so important for us people. We're all coaches here, but we're also people. And I think that it's so important for us to set that vision, that monster goal, like you said, David, and then those SMART goals. And then, like, the beautiful thing about having a vision, for one, is we know where we're going. We know what direction we're going. We know who we're going to become, at least an idea. Probably going to be some curveballs in there. Thank God the vision is a living document and it can be changed. And the monster goals a year out, and the SMART goals are broken down weekly or monthly, depending on how hungry we are, right? But then, just to take that one step in front of the other and not get overwhelmed into a place of paralyzation. I think that's really important. I've been there before, and I think it's when I am too distracted, I'll say, on the vision. I think having a vision's good, don't get me wrong, but for me, and a lot of my clients are bogged down if their attention is on it. We need to break them down into 1 step, 2 step, 3 step, 4 step, and 1 in it.
Yeah. You mentioned, the first thing you mentioned was this idea of paralysis by analysis, right? And we're looking at the whole thing, but we, as coaches, we know, and as coaches, we teach our clients that the way to do this is the way you eat an elephant, right? One bite at a time. And I think that's an important thing. The other thing that I find in coaching, that I found in pretty much all of the different things that I do, is that there can be people standing for ideas or issues, and that's where these templates come in on the adverse side, on the downside. that can be the guardian of what's called the guardian of the threshold, right? And so this I actually pull out of literature. There's this thing called the hero's journey, right? Where the hero, which would be our client, right, comes to the point where they're dissatisfied, they want to make a change, but they got to get across the threshold, right? And sometimes there is the wife, the friend, the aunt, the uncle, the boss, who's got that wonderful vocab of yeah, but. Or if it's the template that's the problem, then it's an internal thing. That's that tape that keeps on playing in the back of their head, the back of my head even, that says, you can't do this, right? And so this is where what you're talking about, William, we come in, right? Because really what we do as coaches at first is nothing more than disrupt, right? We're there to disrupt a bad thought process.
Mm-hmm.
And so we throw a different yabba at that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? What about this? Have you considered this? You know, because I think one of the problems that people have with long-term goals, or even real solid dreams for the future, is they don't know how to do it. They don't know how to dream. They can't, and if they can't give a voice to it, then they can't clarify the vision. And so I think one of the big things that we do as coaches is give them the permission to dream.
Mm-hmm.
And we set them free. Literally, we set them free. Right. You know? I don't know. You're familiar, of course, with the story of Lazarus being raised from the dead, right?
Come on.
Well, there's a little interesting perspective that I was given on this by a friend of mine, and I carry it with me everywhere I go, right? Jesus shows up, and Mary and Martha are weeping and wailing, and Lazarus is dead, and he's in the tomb, and the rock is across the door and the opening. And he's telling them, Jesus tells them, roll the stone away, right? Roll the stone away, but surely there's going to be a stench. Do it anyway. They roll the stone. It just calls Lazarus out, right? And Lazarus comes hopping out. But it's interesting. There's something Jesus didn't do. Jesus didn't untie him, and Jesus didn't unwrap him. He told other people to do that, right? And I see my role as a coach as Jesus has already called this person out of the darkness, and here I am. And my job is to untie him so he can walk.
Wow.
Right?
I like that.
Yeah, because a lot of what we do is, can I play the devil's advocate here?
Yeah, of course.
You know, no, that's what I'm saying, what we do. You know, and by doing that, we challenge and give them other options just for them to be thinking. Because we don't tell them what to do. We don't do anything like that. We get the ideas to come up from inside them.
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, Jesus did that too, didn't he? He gave his followers the option of what to do and what to say. Well, who do you say that I am?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
And you got that only because of revelation. Because no man has said that.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. I think the last thing that will serve our clients is for us just to be like every other person they've ever spoken with. We need to be willing to throw a grenade in the middle of the room, metaphorically, by asking a question that maybe nobody else wants to ask, but it is the elephant in the room and needs to be asked, right? It reminds me of a recent conversation that I was having with some students. And whole class full of students, and it was a couple that started together. They looked engaged, a little skeptical, but nevertheless they were there, along with 6 other couples.
Yep.
And after week 2, I never saw him again. We're on week 9. We're going into week 9 now.
Okay.
And I was doing roll call. I was asking, who's here, and asking them to scan the QR code, take the initiative, and things like that. Well, I just so happened to ask her where her husband was, and she said, "Oh, he's at the basketball game."
Oh, good.
It's okay. I'll let him have a pass. And in that moment, it was just like fire down from heaven. I mean, call her out on it. In love, but call her out on it. And so I did. I said, well, why did you give him permission? Is your financial future not important enough? Is a basketball game taking precedence over your financial future together? In front of the class. Her countenance fell. And I hated it. I didn't want to ask that question, but I needed to. And I'm glad I did. And she went on to say, no, it's okay. And then she gave another reason why it was okay. And I said something that was very controversial, I think. And I didn't like asking it. But I said, how's that playing in your marriage? Her countenance fell again. I said, are you experiencing an equal dynamic, or is it more like you're his mommy than his wife? Her countenance, she dropped. I mean, she was there. She stayed, and she's still with us. But that was it was a realization over her face, right? Maybe she thought she had it masked. Maybe she, it's an ongoing conversation that we're having. At least I hope that we'll have more. But I think it goes back to the point that we as coaches, in this case, Financial Peace University coordinator, possibly will be her coach, we don't need to shy away whenever we see a problem.
No, and we shouldn't. I had a very similar experience with an FPU course that I did. I actually had a class that was all engaged couples, which was fun. And I had one that was doing very much what you're describing. We have an obligation to speak truth. The way I took it I approached just a little bit differently, and in that, I wasn't blunt about it with the whole group, but I did have the conversation. The second week when he didn't show up, that was a different issue. And at that point, it was all right, look, if he's checked out now and you're not married yet, then what is the likelihood that he's going to be engaged in marriage? And, if you're supposed to be working towards, and I'll tell you, this was an older couple. It was an older couple, like in their 60s, which makes it kind of challenging because they're definitely set in their ways. But if you're supposed to be getting to the point where you're going to be going in the same direction and you're going to be unified, but you're not unified in your money, how long is it going to be before you're completely disrupted across the board? Right. Turns out, shortly after that, they were no longer a couple. And
Well,
then she thanked me.
Mm-hmm. Some people need that, shock of realization because they'll sit in something because it's convenient. Well, I really don't like this person anymore, but I have to be with them because of whatever reason.
Yep.
Well, it's going to happen one way or the other. Why not just cut it off now and be done with it?
I think we could throw that all the way back to childhood templates and what, especially when I was a kid, what marriage was supposed to be, right? When I was a kid, marriage, well, dad, husband, whatever, is supposed to take care of the money. Wife, mom was supposed to, maybe she had a part-time job, but she really wasn't supposed to be financially responsible. And you don't talk about money. And that's exactly the behavior they were exhibiting.
Mm-hmm.
And so that doesn't work when you're, in your 50s or 60s and you're a single person, and especially if you're a single either way. But then also to realize that now you have equal stake in something that you're going to be bringing together, arguably, in the next 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And so that template gets exposed, and now you have to do something about
Right. Right. And maybe going to a Financial Peace University class or a coaching session or therapy or whatever it is together is the hardest thing you've done all week, all month, all year, or whatever. I'm not saying it's easy, right? But it's necessary, because when it's not, then all the pressure goes on the spouse that goes. All the pressure. That's not fair.
Well, and I would argue there's more than just pressure. There are some resentments that go with that. There are some regrets. And when we start talking truth, there also ends up being an element of shame, which is why I'm really careful about how I approach that. Mm-hmm. Because, we're supposed to be a guilt-free, shame-free zone. But I think the thing is to then quickly say, well, no, you don't have anything to be ashamed about because you're actually here.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're doing it.
Then the other point goes too. So me and my wife were signed up in Financial Peace, and I'm going, but she's not. And you say something that's really cool. You say A. I go back to my wife and say, well, he said A, B, and C, so you need to do it like I've been telling you all along. You never said B and C. I added those because it makes me look good. She wasn't there to know the difference, and there's a lot of that too. They hear it their way.
Absolutely.
So that's why I always tell people you both have to be here, just so you can't say that the other person just telling it their way. You actually heard it firsthand.
Absolutely.
So much wisdom.
Absolutely. And that's actually one of the reasons why when I'm coaching, especially when on that first call, one of the things that I promise the people that I talk to is you're not going to hear me say something that Dave Ramsey would not say. You will not hear it. It doesn't come from me. Mm-hmm. And we can call it brand fidelity if you want, but if I'm saying that I'm a Ramsey preferred coach, to me, on a professional level, it is no different than saying I'm a Christian.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny you say that because there's a lot of Ramsey preferred coaches out there. And I have worked with several, and I'm not calling any of them out, but I'm going to use some of their testimonies. We had one that literally, now Dave Ramsey is fully against whole life insurance. Yeah. And there's a reason. Because whole life insurance, the insurance agent makes money, it's not good for the person. So they're going to spin it, they're going to sell it however they want. We have some Ramsey preferred coaches that sell whole life insurance.
Yep.
And we also have a lot of Ramsey preferred coaches that use credit cards. Matter of fact, I was working with one, and they actually pulled a whole stack of cards. And then when I called them out because they actually pulled the whole stack out, they were like, oh, well, these are just in case back. Wait, just in case? You claim you're financially debt-free. Why do you need those in case? Because then you should have an emergency fund. Yep. So you have so many preferred coaches that don't live by the practices that they preach. Now, the one thing that was grounded in me a long time ago, way before Ramsey, practice what you preach.
Yep.
I can tell you lies and all that kind of stuff, and you'll never know the difference. But in the end, every single thing you do you will be judged. And forget about the end. Whether you believe in the Bible, on the same scale you sow, you will reap, or whether you believe not in the Bible and you believe in karma, what you put out is coming back. So if I put lies out to you, people are going to lie to me.
Yep.
So I mean, it's just, you need to be true to yourself and true to everything else. If you're living practices, if you're claiming something, do it. If you're claiming to be Dave Ramsey's coach, you need to be following him. Well, I believe most of Ramsey, but there's this and this that I don't agree with. Then don't claim Ramsey. In my office, I used to go out all the time, and I would ask people when I was in Nashville, do you know Ramsey? Because in Nashville, pretty much everybody knows Ramsey. Now, it's either a love or hate relationship. There's no in between. You either love the guy or you hate him. And if they said, oh yeah, I love that guy, he's awesome, he has good principles, I'm one of his preferred coaches. If they said, no, I hate that son of a gun, oh really? Why is that? Well, I'm glad to hear that. Well, you know what? I'm actually a coach. I help transform and help people with their habits. Yep. I forget about the part of Ramsey because I'm not there. I am, I am a Ramsey coach, but I'm not there to push Ramsey down the throat. I'm there to transform them. So if they know Ramsey, if they like him, now they know what I do. If they don't like him, I don't need to mention it.
Well, and that's important because the truth of the matter is what we're doing is actually running our own business.
Yep.
And so right now, just because of all the other things I do, the coaching I do is off of the Ramsey lead. So they're all coming to me from that direction. If not, no, I don't have to mention it. And that's fine. But even still, it's kind of like being a Christian and going somewhere and you're just there to render help. You're just going to render the help because that's who you are, and you're going to render it in the way that your faith directs you, whether or not you're standing there preaching the gospel.
Mm-hmm.
Same.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it goes back to the golden rule of God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and your neighbor is yourself. If you're not practicing what you're preaching, then how can you effectively love your neighbor as yourself? Because you're not loving yourself by giving what you say you're giving.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
This thing is complex, but not really. It's patterns and cycles and things that we get to implement and enjoy and do. It reminds me of the quote as a saying, honest people don't need to remember much.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, we just have the truth. That's all there is.
Yeah, and when you lie, it's funny because you have to tell this lie, but then you have to tell this lie to cover up that lie, and then you have to tell this lie to cover up that one to cover up that one. Truth. Then it just gets too hard to remember. What did I say? That's why if you ever get into like law enforcement and undercover work, they say stay as close to the truth as possible so you won't get mixed up when you're stressed out.
Yep.
So, like for instance, my name is David Smith, right? But I might be Daniel because it's close enough to my name, I won't get it mixed up. But you don't want to use your name because then they can search it.
Right.
So you always want to be as truthful as possible because that way you don't have to remember what you're doing. A simple name, they have to go months and months practicing the name so they don't slip up. I'm going by Daniel. Hey, David. Well, wait, no, I'm not David. Yeah. So it's just easy to tell the truth straight off. You don't have to stress.
So I've got a confession to make, guys. I feel like I'm in a good space for this. And it's nothing that I haven't said before, but maybe. So as a Ramsey preferred coach, back in 2023 is when I started, around March, I think. Later that year, I was convicted because I had 2 credit cards I was using to boost my credit score as a Ramsey preferred coach a couple months after I became one. And, I never had accumulated any debt on them, just used them for like groceries and gas and stuff that I was going to get anyway, that whole thing. But the more I leaned in as a coach, walked through the training, did Financial Peace University, like coordinated it, the conviction just grew larger and larger and larger. So I still remember the feeling of liberation that came over me just a short few months after that when I cut those up. I did. And now I'm proud to say that my credit score is non-determinable. And I don't need one. I've got an emergency fund and I'm investing. So I'm taken care of. God is good, right? And I'm not going to be knocking on the door of Visa, MasterCard, or Capital One when life happens. No, I've got cash for that. And God's grace, more importantly. So, yeah, I just thought it was confession time.
Well, you know, the funny thing you say that. When I first took Financial Peace University myself the very first time, before being Ramsey coach, I took the class, and the very first episode, I says, this ain't for me, I'm not coming back. And God said, oh, yeah, you are. You're going back. You need to learn those principles. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. Go back. The second class. Time to cut up your credit cards. I have 10 credit cards. There ain't no way I'm going to cut up my credit cards. Now, I handle them responsibly. I got 9 cards. I have one small transaction. I don't ever touch it. It automatically charges, automatically pays off. I never have to worry about 9 cards. And one of them, I max out 3 times a month. I pay it off in full 3 times a month, but I use it for the benefits. And so I'm not cutting up my cards. And I'm not bringing my cards so they don't want to cut them because I don't have them. That's my excuse. You're cutting up your cards. Third class, I cut 9 of the 10 cards up. One of them was a metal card. And then the other one went too. Thankfully, as of this moment right now, I have no cards. The only cards I have is debit cards, and I love cashback debit. And I have prepaid cards. You know, for people who I don't want to give access to my debit card. But I have no credit cards at all anymore. It's a great feeling. Because one of the things is, the principle is there, and the reason, you can have credit cards. It's not that you have to get rid of the cards. But the thing is you need to get rid of the cards so that you don't fall in. If you fall into a hole, it's hard to get back out. So if you have a card, yeah, I'm doing good right now. But what happens when you fall in the hole? It is hard to get out. Those cards have anywhere from a 10 to 30% interest. And right now you're not paying interest. But later on, all of a sudden, something happened. You're going to use it. Now you're paying interest. How long is it going to take to get out? That's why you cut up your cards, so you don't have the temptation. You can't fail. We are at a halfway point. So there is a couple things I want to mention. First of all, we do have to say, Mary, we do see you. Congratulations. She is loving. She's right up our alley on what we're speaking. The second thing is for the coaches that are in the Absolute coaches community, all the blueprints are up, and we're going to be making a special announcement later on about one of the things in there. And so stay tuned because you will definitely want to see it. If you want a sneak preview, look in the description. Second of all, we're going to be starting to give announcements and awards, and somebody's getting an award, a thing here on this podcast today. So anytime there's going to be a celebration, we're going to do that here. So make sure you stay tuned because it's going to be really awesome. Now, our sponsor is in the link below, and make sure you click that link, and you can actually earn an additional $100. And with that being said, you definitely want to stay tuned. Enrichment is coming. And enrichment is very powerful. It's very awesome. So we have some special promotions coming out just for enrichment. Okay? It's going to be a special promotions from August 7th to the 13th. So you will want to stay tuned for those promotions or read the description below to get a sneak preview. With that being said, we're going to continue going in, and if you have any comments, please post them in the comments below, and we will bring them into the podcast live.
Like that, David. Yeah, and we've been having some really good questions and comments, so looking forward to having some more. childhood templates versus long-term goals.
It's good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Yep. And Mary's sneaking ahead.
What's that?
Mary's sneaking ahead. She's peeking in the description as we speak.
I like it. Love Mary. So I don't mind speaking from a place of vulnerability. Hopefully it encourages an air of relatability for you. So childhood templates, we've all got them.
Yeah, and speaking of childhood templates, not only childhood, but we create templates throughout our life. And we hold on to those. So, and people have heard the phrase, fake it till you make it. I don't like that phrase. But what I do like, William, you have an awesome testimony. And I'm going to hold on to your testimony until I have one myself. That I agree with. Hold on to other people's testimonies until you have the breakthrough where you have the testimony yourself. But don't claim that testimony for yourself, because now you're faking it. It's not your testimony to claim. For instance, we have many coaches making over $10,000 per month. Now, if you're not making $10,000 per month, use one of those coaches. There's this coach making $10,000 a month. I can do it as well. Now it pushes you to get that.
And I think, my mantra is not fake it till you make it, because that presumes that you don't know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would much rather, my initial one was suit up and show up.
I like that.
Ooh, like that.
Suit up and show up. Because then what you're doing is you're creating an aspirational identity.
Mm-hmm.
You're not trying to be a poser. You're not trying to be somebody else. You are trying to listen to who God's calling you to be, and trying to listen to what it is that God's asking you to do in this work that we do. And God honors that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It is no different in my mind. It is no different than the widow that went after the judge. Right? She just kept on going and going and going until the judge said, I get. And
she did.
And I think that's true for us, that's persistence in prayer, and time throughout the scriptures we see God will honor that persistence. Mm-hmm. Right? That's it, until we have that breakthrough moment. That's what it's really all about. And that's how we actually break the childhood template, right? Because our greatest competition is ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Make sure you take your lightsaber, so if you need to do battle, you can.
Okay. I like it.
Is that your mantra, David?
Well, I'm a big Star Wars guy.
Oh, sure.
So that's why I say the lightsaber. Now, I'll tell you why I'm a Star Wars guy. Because we're all Christians here. And a lot of people are Christians out in the world, but a lot of people aren't.
Yep.
Star Wars is written and done all on biblical principles. Everything is biblical inside of it. However, find one scripture.
Yep.
May the force be with you. Who is it talking about? Use the force. The force is strong with you. Who is told that the force is strong with? Right? It's very biblical. Everything that is in that movie is very biblical. It's just not throwing the scriptures out there.
Yep.
Darth Vader. He was good. His force was very strong. He went to the devil very strong. His skill was still there. He's just using the wrong spirit now. Talking to his son. Come over to the dark side with me. What does the devil do all the time? Tries to entice people over. After all, he did say, hey, look, bow down and worship me and I'll give you all this. Right? So, he's going to do anything he can do to entice you. Isn't that what the dark side tries to do all the time on Star Wars?
Yep.
Just saying. That's why I love
Yep.
Star Wars so much. That's why I make a lot of references to it, because it's basically taking my stance and showing you, hey, look, I'm through and through. I may not say it, but you can see by how I live.
Yep.
Mhm. Yeah. Did God really say? I hear that a lot. Um, trying to think of a Star Wars reference that would be equivalent to that. I know there is one.
Oh, there's tons of them. I forget what his name was, but it's a very old guy trying to bring one of the lords in. He was getting ready to go for a battle. Well, they're saying this. Did they really say that? I'm the one. Look at me. It was that old guy, just about dead, and he actually did get killed. Can't think of his name offhand. And that's just because I'm so good with names.
Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is to just, even whether we're talking about scripture, whether we're talking about Star Wars, just to understand that a lot of times what we are engaged in is a spiritual battle.
Mm-hmm.
Financial reality is often a spiritual battle.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to equip, strengthen, or just be a place of respite for somebody who's been engaged in that battle is an important task for us.
Yeah. And it's funny because, speaking of a marriage, what is the number one reason, or I'll say it this way, because it depends on people's opinion, but either the number one or number two, because no matter what survey you look at, it's always one of the top. What is either the number one or number second issue that breaks up marriages?
It's money.
Money. And, when I was leading Financial Peace University, I can't tell you how many people came up to me and said, "You saved my marriage." I did what? I didn't do nothing. But when they build their communication gets stronger because we're doing the budget meetings and we're doing all these different kind of things, because the relationship is getting stronger and now they're getting better with money, their marriage gets saved. It is nothing we do. We just encourage them to do it, and when they do it, they get the fruits. A bad tree cannot bear good fruit, and a good tree cannot bear bad fruit. So when they produce, they will produce. Or when they do, they will produce. The man that doesn't work doesn't eat. You gotta do to get.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, but so much of this life, especially in regards to marriage, is communication. I think it all comes back down to communication. And I have been the world's worst in just assuming that people can know my heart, they can read my heart or read my mind. Nope, that's up to me. That's up to me to communicate that. And I think that as coaches, we can really do a great job at teaching our clients, maybe not even, or maybe guiding our clients. There we go. Guiding our clients, and not even like very intentionally. Well, I'll say it like this. Maybe it's intentional for us, but they have no idea that we're guiding them in that direction. We're just, like you said, David, living it. Right? We're living it, and we're sharpening them in real time, and before you know it, their communication is getting better, and now their marriage is getting better because those small little things that we question at 3 a.m. as we're trying to sleep, does he care? Is he thinking about me throughout the day? And maybe the guy is just fast asleep, but those small little things. Maybe the guy's up. Maybe it's the husband that's thinking about it, right? Maybe it's going back and forth. But those small little things, that can be cleared up with effective communication instead of just being silent or saying, well, don't you already know that? Saying about giving validation instead of passivity. Giving, what else? What else, Larry?
So I think there's a couple things. One is one of the conversations I have with couples as I'm listening to them, when they're having money fights or money arguments, I listen to them carefully, and one of the things I realize is they have a pronoun problem. They're not speaking in the plural.
Mm-hmm.
It's me, my, or her, or his. And there's not only is there a pronoun problem, which indicates a thought problem, there's an attitude problem that goes along with it. And so I honestly don't even ask them to start talking about money first.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's kind of where problems lie, it's, what we know as coaches, that's really just a symptom of something else, right? Most of the time. So one of the things that I've encouraged, I do, this is a ritual that I do every night, actually every morning. My hands swell at night, so I have to take my wedding, right? So one of the things that I do every morning is I take my ring, I put it back on, and I say, I still do. Every day, I still do. And then I ask myself a question. And the question is, and how will she know that?
Wow.
Ooh. You know what you just reminded me of?
What's that?
Fireproof.
Great movie.
Very good. And that's exactly what you reminded me, because a lot of times, like with that guy, he focused on what is she doing wrong? What's her problem? And then when he started converting it back to himself, he started to working on himself, but she's not listening to me. Again, you're still concentrating on her. And there's something very powerful. When we take the plank out of our own eye before we try to touch the sliver, when we focus on ourselves, then it's not about the other person. And when we're starting to pull the plank out of our eye, we notice all the issues of everybody else. Well, I'm working on this, why aren't they? Well, who cares whether they are or not? Now, when you actually pull the plank out, you see the problem they're doing, but now you understand what you went through, so now you're understanding. Well, they might be dealing with it, so I don't need to correct them. Well, that's exactly true. You don't.
Or you come to realize that what you thought was a splinter was just a reflection of the plank in your eye.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, come on.
That's good.
And in addition to that, David, which I think is powerful, pulling out this plank of my eye, I'm able to now see not only the slivers in others, but the beauty that I was missing. Right? It was Jimmy Evans, a married guy that gives married advice. Says a good rule of thumb is to say 9 things positive about your spouse to 1 correctional thing, 1 thing that you'd like changed. And I think it's an excellent rule of thumb.
Yeah. Another thing to consider is this, and they do this in the world of recovery, is when you're looking at something and you're asking yourself, or you're why somebody's doing something, or you don't like the way somebody's doing something, to start and ask the question, okay, and what was my role in that mess?
Mm-hmm. That's good.
What was my role? Because you know what? When you start, it's something that, we tell our little kids all the time, right? When you're pointing 1 finger at somebody else, you got 3 pointing back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Go ahead.
This is a quote from an unknown author. Let us, therefore, make every effort to what leads to peace and mutual edification. And I
Yeah.
love that because a lot of people stop at peace. Well, I want peace. Well, you need this to have peace and mutual edification. Is it edifying both of us? Let's bring that into practice. That's a
Yeah, that
powerful
is really good.
quote.
Really good. Okay, so I'm going to speak from a place of just where I'm at,
Yep.
where I've been, and where I'm still at. To a degree, I'm getting better. But okay, so I had been one of the world's biggest failures. I'll just claim it, the world's biggest failure of giving those words of affirmation and doing the thing Jimmy Evans says, right? Doing the 9-to-1 ratio, and like searching deep within my subconscious, talking to my therapist I meet with twice weekly, and we're diving down into those childhood templates and figuring out like what's going on. Why is it that I am suspicious of when people call out the good things in me, so that I don't want to treat people like that? I don't want to raise suspicion in them. So it's like this weird backward psychology of, no, I'm loving you by not complimenting you. And it's just the most sinister thing. So I've been tackling that head on. And the way I've been tackling it is I have been speaking life and truth into myself very intentionally. And I've seen that cross the threshold into my other relationships as I am praising those who come into my inner sphere of influence, right? Has there been some suspicion being raised from others? Yeah, you should see. You start praising somebody you're waiting in line next to, and it could be like, nice haircut, or it doesn't have to be anything crazy. And almost always it's a smile.
Mm-hmm.
It just bursts a smile across their face. They're so happy that you notice them,
Well,
and.
Speaking of, since you said haircut, I heard that Larry is so wise because of his haircut. So I had to get one of those too.
Well, you can put it that way. I just, God only made a few perfect heads. The rest he put hair on, and these few perfect heads are there just so that we could reflect his glory. That's what it's really all about.
Hey,
Come
I
on,
like that one.
I see it.
I like that. I'm going to use that one now.
You're welcome.
I'll keep on reflecting off my forehead.
That's quite all right. That's quite all right. No, you know what? Well, I get that issue of being suspicious of people that praise you. I mean, that what do they really want, right? What do they really want? And I think that too can also be something that gets in the way for us as coaches. Why? Because how do we break ice with people?
Mm-hmm.
Right? But that's one of the first ways that we build rapport is through that complimentary word, whatever it is. And I think part of the combat for us as coaches is how do I genuinely compliment someone without it coming off as just a sales pitch?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that there doesn't need to be a sales pitch, until you've earned the right for them to be in a consultation with you. Maybe not even then. I mean, whenever God opens the door, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I found that people love to talk about what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love to listen.
So,
And one of the biggest things you have to remember is people don't care about you or what you can do until they know how much you care. So you get to know, let them talk and dig into it. Oh, really? Can you tell me more about that? I never thought of it that way. Dig into them, sound interested. Well, that's the wrong way to say, but I mean, be interested in them.
Interested. Yeah.
And the more interested you're in, the more they're going to get connected to you. And so that's the real fruit.
Yep.
Yep.
And it's sometimes it can be strange. Like going back to what you just said, David. At points in my life, I have been super interested in people that are close to me. They're asking me, "Hey, you still with me?" It's like, So I've got to almost act interested to properly show them that I'm interested. A lot of the times, even when I am genuinely interested, it's like I've still got to remind myself to smile or do something. It's a strange thing.
But it's funny you say that because you have to do it at the right time. Because there's this one person I talk to that I hate talking to because they'll say, just so you know that they're still with you, but they say it at the wrong time. I'm in the middle of a sentence. Are you listening to me?
No.
So, you do got to acknowledge and be there with them, but you got to do it at the right time. Because otherwise they still know you're not listening. Speaking of which, we like to make 3 announcements. And so first of all, the first one is we have a community that's completely free for all coaches out there. This is to help bridge coaches together so you are teamed up with a group of coaches. This is Ramsey coaches, Tony Robbins coaches. If you have a certificate or a credential of any kind, as long as you are a coach, you are welcome into this community. We have a lot of things we love to give away, and so this is here for you, and this is made by coaches for coaches. So come on in, the description is below. And then the one thing that I want to mention is we're all coaches here, and every single coach needs a coach. Matter of fact, that's what separates from the good coaches to the starting out coaches, is all the good coaches have a coach. All celebrities and famous people, they have a coach. And coaching is very good, very needed. You definitely need one. Well, we also have what's called group coaching, which makes it a little bit more reasonable for people because some of the new coaches starting out, they cannot afford getting into coaching right off the back, so they don't get it, and they wonder why they don't get going because they don't have that push that they need. You are a coach. You're trying to do this. In order to practice what you preach. You're telling them that they need a coach. You need a coach. So we have something that's more practical for you. It's called group coaching. It brings the price way down to make it more reasonable. And it's definitely something that you should check into. The link is below. And then finally, we have, in the community, we have a lot of rewards, a lot of different things like that. We are now starting to do, let me bring the picture up. We're going to now start to do badges. And William brought it to my attention that he wanted to get some kind of acknowledgement. So we are going to be doing badges. You get certificates already, but now we're going to start doing badges. So first of all, we're going to give a badge. This video here will actually be posted in the community for that. But we're going to give a badge for 6 months of being a co-host to William. So congratulations on that. That'll actually be in your profile, and people will actually be able to see that. There's also, on the screen right now, you can see 6 different badges. The 5 green ones are every single time you come on this podcast. So Larry, you're going to get a badge as well for being a guest speaker. Every single time a person comes on here, they're going to get a badge as well. So we're going to start giving out a lot of different badges, a lot of different things, because we want to give credit to where credit is due. So congratulations on that, and thank you for the push, William, because now, because of you, we now have badges that people can wear with pride. And then the next thing I want to talk about is Larry.
Yes.
You want to speak a little bit about what you do?
Well, sure. Thank you very much. I am, as you all, I love to work with pretty much anybody. I know that there are some folks that are coaches that like to look for a niche, and they have a specific kind of client that they're looking for.
Okay, Larry, I think you froze.
Yep. Maybe he'll come back. Oh, right when he was going to tell us about what he does.
Well, we'll get back to him. He'll still tell us. But for those out there, his link is in the description below, so you can always click his link and find out everything. When he gave the site, he actually has a .coach website, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're gonna.
Thank you so much, David, for that badge of honor. I will wear it with pride. And then also, great idea, I think, to give our special guests a badge too, just an acknowledgement, because after all, what we do is not the easiest thing, right? So that acknowledgement does go a long way.
Yep. Welcome back, Larry. Okay, so you cut off, you froze. So tell us a little bit about your business. We can't hear you right now.
Muted.
How about now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. All right. So, I'm a high school teacher, and you know what? I can't pick my students. I'm an EMT, and I can't pick my patients. I'm a Christian, and I don't really get to pick those who I share the gospel with. And so, I honestly, that's how I pick my coaching clients too. Those who will. That's really what it really comes down to. The way I run my practice, my practice name really is actually Larry the Money Medic. And so I really do my stuff based on how I triage and assess my patients on the ambulance, so that I can chart a course for their improvement and set them free so that they can then dream and achieve their goals. That's really what I do. Really simple. It's not easy always, but it is really simple for me that way.
Mm-hmm.
That's really it. That's it. Very simple.
And if you want to find out more information, like I've already said, his link is in the description below. So click on that, find out more information about him, and reach out.
Yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you.
And on that note, we do want to say thank you, Larry, for coming. We do appreciate you, and we look forward to the next time we see you. Did you have any final comments?
No, I think, I appreciate the opportunity to be with all of you, and I'm hoping that what we offered you guys tonight out there in the community will be helpful for you in your practice. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or concerns or comments. I'm happy to help.
That's right.
Pleasure having you on, Larry. Thank you.
And thanks for the invite, Will. Appreciate you, man.
Any final comments, Will?
No, yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Larry. We'll definitely look forward to having you on again for a part 2, perhaps in the new year sometime.
Sounds good. Cool. Right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and everybody, we'll see you guys in the same bat time, same bat channel next week. Thank you.
Awesome.